All right, let's get back to the tour at this time. We've seen the corruption of Tammany Hall. We've seen what Boss Tweed can do. Now let's go to city life. Many parts of the city appeared as you see here. It looked pretty rough. If you notice, the children in the background, the conditions of the building itself, the walls, this was normal at that time. The city was growing at a rate that was so fast that we end up seeing overcrowding. We're going to see poor housing, crime. You put a lot of people in one place, you're going to begin to see crime. You're going to see murders and fires. A lot of children are dying as infants. Unsanitary condition. People are just not careful with how they're taking care of things. Pollution, disease, and death. All right, this is an example. This is a picture of what New York City looked like. Remember, they had to build up. So people didn't have clotheslines like we do here in the South, or like we did here in the South. But what they ended up doing is forming these lines, and then that's where they would hang their clothes. All right, here we see another group of people just sitting around in dilapidated conditions. Let's stop the carriage. We're going to go inside one of these buildings, and this building is called a tenement, and we're going to see what actually is going on, what it looks like inside. All right, so here's a tenement. You see this man there. The majority of the urban dwellers that was working lived in these city tenements. Basically, it was a dark, overcrowded, multi-family apartment. Just like in this picture. One room house or one room apartment, and you see that there's 7 people living in this one room. Right? Here's another one where there's not even enough room for a bed. So people are asleep on the floor. This person is asleep in the chair because there's just no room. It was overcrowded. All right. Here we see a family here with children in the tenement, and the woman is in the back cooking. So, what I want you to do, we're going to go to Hotels.com and we're going to rate the tenements. Explain, after you view and we've just viewed it, explain what the tenement is so that future people coming into the city will know what the tenement is. So, go to your iPad, and I want you to, how many stars you're going to give the tenement. Then once you determine how many stars you give the tenement, then explain what the tenement is so that future people know what it is. So 1, 2, 3, or 4 stars. You can pause it at this point. All right, going back to the city. At least this tenement has a view of the Brooklyn Bridge, so we can see the Brooklyn Bridge from this tenement. It's getting pretty late, and unless you want to join these guys for work at 5 a.m. in the morning, let's head back to the present. On our time machine. Alright, so if we look at New York City from 1876 to 1932 to 1938 to 2013, we see that there has been changes in the city. One of the biggest changes that we can see is the buildings have gotten taller. One of the things, this is prior to the building of the 9/11 memorial, and so that's why it looks like a painting. This is basically a painting. Alright, so what I want you to do at this time, I want you to summarize the city life for immigrants and give the Gilded Age tour a Yelp rating. So how are you going to rate your tour today? So going back to your iPhone, down here to the bottom, you're going to, whether it's 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 stars, draft a review. Summarize the city life for the immigrants, and then give Gilded Age tours a Yelp rating based on, did you learn a lot through this presentation? Were you able to gain a lot of information? So give the Gilded Age Yelp tour a rating. You may pause it at this time. Alright, now that you have done that, let's check for your understanding. Let's see how well you understood what we just went through. Alright, what group of people favored native-born people and a desire to limit immigration? Give up? Nativism. If you said nativism, you will be correct. Next question. What act banned entry to Chinese in 1882? The answer is in the question. The Chinese Exclusion Act. I knew you knew it. The rapid growth of U.S. cities during the late 1800s and the early 1900s was mostly due to what? Why did it grow so much? Because of industrialization and immigration. In the early 1900s, Americans saw a rise in urbanization mostly due to the increased immigration from what part of the world? Remember, your old and your new immigrants. Basically, where did your new immigrants come from? Southern and Eastern Europe. You are so smart. I know you got it. What is a tenement? A tenement is a dark and crowded multifamily apartment. Why did cities become divided according to ethnicity? Because immigrants began to cluster in groups to preserve their culture, your ethnic enclave. What are negatives of life immigrants? What were some of the negatives of life that immigrants was faced with on a daily basis in the city? And this is more than one correct answer, so just think about the negatives that immigrants had to face. Overcrowding, poor housing, crime, high infancy death, filth, pollution, disease, and death. Alright, so where did most immigrants arriving to the United States during the early 1900s arrive through on the West Coast? Where did they come in? We talked about it. Do you know it? Good. Angel Island. They came through on Angel Island. Urban immigrants during the late 19th and early 20th century were influenced to support local political machines because what did these political machines do for the immigrants? Yes, they provided essential services to immigrants. What did political machines expect in return for providing services to the immigrants? They told the immigrants to vote the way they wanted them to, and pretty much they were buying their vote. Where did most immigrants arriving in the United States during the early 1900s arrive through the East Coast? So on the East Coast, where did the immigrants come in? Y'all are so smart. Ellis Island, very good. What was the purpose of the Americanization movement? What did they want to do to the immigrants, like they did to the Native Americans? They wanted to assimilate the immigrants into the American culture. What was the religious reform movement during the Industrial Revolution called? Remember Dwight Moody, and YMCA? Social Gospel Movement. What social gospel movement organization was created by Dwight Moody? I just told you. YMCA. But I knew you knew it anyway. And the last one. Who did social gospel reformers such as Jane Addams strive to help? The people from the urban societies or the cities, and they did it through the Hall houses, which was a way of restructuring urban societies. You did so well on this. All right, so let's go back and look at your notes. because now you should be finished. Not only should you be finished with the notes, pull it up. Not only should you be finished with the notes, but if you will go back and answer the questions on the side at this time before you glue it into your book, because it may get a little bit hard to write this once you glue it. Go ahead and glue this into your notebook once you finish answering the questions. And you're also going to summarize today's lesson. Now, in summarizing today's lesson, you must use at least 5 of the content vocabulary in your summary. So summarize today's lesson using at least 5 of the content vocabulary. So you're answering the questions and summarizing because your notes are done. And we're going to take a break before the next assignment.